I have another question for you. Why don't you want me to be a Jew, or do you?
I don't care.
Yeah, so why?
Why? Because
I want you to be Catholic, obviously.
Right, no,
yeah.
and by the way, I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, this is what I've always said to my Catholic friends, my Protestant friends.
Yeah.
As long as you're coming at me with a book and not a sword, that's great.
And they're not being annoying and
exactly.
just berating you or something like that.
But I mean, even if you want to be annoying about it, that's fine. Like, you care enough about my soul that you want me to be saved. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's much appreciated, and we'll find out in the overtime period who is right and who is wrong. But
so every faith basically wants you to be an adherent of their faith because they believe they have the truth. And if they have the truth, of course, everybody has to live with the truth. Don't live a lie. So therefore, throughout the ages, we've seen, and usually by force and coercion, which that becomes kind of questionable, if it's about truth, or is it about power? Is it about control? Or is it about really caring about someone else's soul? Probably not caring about the others. It's more of bringing, power to your side of the camp and dominance to your side of the camp. But Judaism isn't like that. Let's hear some more.
But why don't you? Because we talked about earlier about the only reason you should believe something is because it's true.
Right.
You presumably believe I believe falsehoods, and you believe true things. So why shouldn't you encourage me to abandon some of my beliefs and adopt some of yours?
Right. So doctrinally, what Judaism believes is that the commandments of Israel were only given to Israel.
Okay.
Meaning that the 7 Noahide commandments that I referred to earlier, those are incumbent on all of humanity because they're given to Noah, right before the Jews actually arise as an independent family and people. And so those apply to everyone. So if you're not a member of the Judaic tribe, then those rules don't apply to you. So the 613 commandments that apply to me are boiled down to 7 for you. And so what that means is that if you want to join in to do those commandments, like, that's not required of you. Like, sure, you welcome if you want, but certainly Judaism doesn't feel the necessity to force
to evangelize and to bring people
because Judaism doesn't actually suggest being chosen doesn't mean being superior, right? I think this is one of the great misnomers of sort of history is that when the Jews say that they're a chosen people, what they mean is that they're better than everyone else. And it's like, no, in the same way that if I choose my oldest child to take out the trash, that doesn't mean that my oldest child is better. It means I need my oldest child to take out the trash. Like, that's not the same thing.
Okay.
And so the sort of idea that Jews are in their own minds superior to everybody else because it is incumbent on them to do that, that's obviously not how Jews think, especially because there are a bunch of commandments that are incumbent on men in Judaism that are not incumbent on women in Judaism. Does Judaism then believe that women are of lesser value than men? I mean,
but apart from little laws, there must be like metaphysical things that you hold as true that you would like me to believe. Or at least you would like me. I don't mean to be confrontational, but you would clearly would want Christians to realize that Christ was not the Messiah, that he didn't write. Maybe you don't want that, or maybe it doesn't bother you. You don't care one way or the other.
Right.
The truth is, the Torah, although the 613 commandments are specifically for the Jewish people, as Ben said, but the Torah does speak to all of humanity. After all, it does begin with Genesis, with the creation. It does begin with Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And as he mentioned, the 7 Noahide laws with Noah that predates Abraham, the first Jew, and Jewish family, and then Jewish peoplehood and Jewish nation. But the Torah specifically does speak to all of humanity. And the difference is that we believe that everybody has a different function in God's world that we are all responsible for. So Jewish people are chosen. They're chosen to be the ones responsible for all of humanity, to bring the word of God to all of humanity, that Noahide, 7 Noahide laws, as the Torah dictates, has to be kept by all. Not to believe in idolatry, not to murder, not to steal, not to have the inappropriate relations, sexual relations, courts of justice, not to have cruelty to animals, and blasphemy against God. And there's many offshoots and many other things that come together with that. But those are the 7 basic universal laws for all of humanity based on the Torah. So the Torah does speak to everyone in the moral code, but doesn't say you got to be like me in order to be saved, in order to be good in the eyes of God. Let's hear more on that.
So the way,
But like when I look at Mormons, you know, I'm like,
Right.
look, I love you, and this isn't a criticism on you directly, but Joseph Smith was not a prophet. My Muslim friend, I love you, but like Muhammad was a liar or a lunatic. Maybe he was possessed, but he wasn't a
Right.
wasn't a prophet.
right. So
I have to say that in love, and so I would wonder. And maybe it's just that you have a public platform, and so you don't want to get into that to offend people unnecessarily. But in
it really
person,
isn't that. I mean,
okay.
the Jewish doctrine is that as long as you believe in God, as long as, I mean, the actual seven commandments to non-Jews are believe in God, no eating the flesh of living animals, actually one of them. You have to establish courts of law, no murder, no sexual sins, no idolatry, and I believe no stealing. It's like seven of the 10 of the Big 10, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't actually believe that non-Jews are even bound by the 10 commandments, right? They're bound by the 7 commandments in Judaism.
Hey.
So it like boils even further down. So how you believe in God is of little consequence to me, so long as you do believe in the monotheistic God.
What if I believe in a God that lives on top of a mountain and whose name is Jeffrey?
So if he doesn't,
And I say, that's God,
If he
and I
doesn't
believe-
fulfill the fundamental properties of God, then that doesn't count.
Which would be what?
So the fundamental properties of God would be that he's in charge of the universe, creator of the universe,
Yeah.
master of the divine law,
Yeah.
all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving would probably be in that category. There's debate in sort of Jewish circles as to whether you have to believe that God gave the commandments at Sinai, whether that's a debate between a couple of major rabbis, Maimonides included, as to whether if you discover those 7 laws on your own, but you don't believe that they were given at Sinai, does that count? Right? So there is some doctrinal debate there, but in general, the basic idea that there is only one path to God in the same way that there is in Christianity.
I see.
That doesn't exist in the same way.
What about like a Mormon who believed that God was once a man like we are? Like, would you go, okay, I'm not saying
so
you've
this is-
given much
no,
thought about this, but would that be a place where you'd be like, no, I need to evangelize you, or not that word, but I need you to come to believe in God
so
differently than you
the-
currently do?
So the answer to me is I'm going to go with the I don't know answer. like pretty much everything.
You both
else in
get
Judaism,
3.
There's like major debate on all of these things. And there's a debate for a long time in Judaism over whether, say, Trinitarianism is monotheism or if it's not monotheism. Right? Like that's
Yeah.
like that was a serious debate in Judaism. It's come down on the side of it's monotheism.
Okay.
Why? Because
Because I want you to be Catholic, obviously.
right. It doesn't exist in the same way.
What about like a Mormon?
So just to bring a little more clarity to that, the Trinity, if you believe in it literally, then it is idolatry because it's not one God. If you believe in it figuratively, then it's not idolatry because you believe in one God. God cannot be compartmentalized. There's a oneness of one God and not 3 gods or 3 parts to God. And that is would be the distinction.
Is monotheism or if it's not monotheism. Right? Like that's
Yeah.
like that was a serious debate in Judaism. It's come down on the side of it's monotheism.
Okay.
So I wouldn't know the answer as far as, Mormon doctrine specifically. Let's put it this way. If you're talking about like paganism, Judaism would have a problem with paganism. So let's say that you believed that there were 100 gods and they all ruled over different aspects of humanity. Then Judaism would say that does not fulfill the 7.
And if you were in dialogue with somebody like this, would you feel obligated to try to help divest them of that error so that they could be saved?
Sure. I mean, so then I would feel obligated to actually, in the same way that if somebody believed that adultery was morally acceptable, I would feel the obligation to say, well, no, adultery is not morally acceptable, and it's better for you to not believe that.
It's interesting. Would you feel that you have to change that person's mind about the belief of God in order that they should be saved? It says a lot. In other words, there isn't anything of intrinsic value of the morality, but it's what's going to happen to you. And you don't want that person. If you care about that person, you don't want any harm to come to them or to yourself for that, even more so. So, yes, we are obliged to bring to light what it means, a belief in God and commitment to God and to serve God. Absolutely. But it's not about save my soul. It's about fulfilling your purpose here in this world. And as a result, yes, that will be good for you after your time in this world. But let's make sure that we don't forget the main thing. Main thing is to be a moral, upstanding, divine person to fulfill what God needs from you in this world. That's the plan. And that we devote ourselves not for what my gain is, what I'll get out of this, but this is what I was created for. This is my purpose, is in serving God in this world and making this world a world of good, making this world a better place to live in by fulfilling for non-Jews 7 Noahide laws and Jewish people all 613 laws that are applicable today. It's a much more beautiful way to see your life. What are your thoughts?